Poser alert.
Can I get an ooh from the chatters? Already got a V8 cracked open, ready to go. Even though I don't really do much on these episodes other than push play and do everything before the show, but during the show, and that's fine with me. It just means I get to chill out and jam out all bad-ish with you guys to Chris's tunes. And, of course, he's picked out some more heavy tunes. Yeah, so we're winding down the 80s. 80s, man. Today I made a playlist of all the Chris episodes where you can just go watch them all. Just click on that playlist, and they're all there from 80 to 89. So if you ever want to go back and check them out, share them around, I made it easier for everybody just to go to that playlist tab and watch them there instead of having to search for them or whatever. They're all in one little spot, convenient little spot for you. So yeah, I did that. Also, not sure yet what we're gonna do after this. But there will be something else. I haven't really thought about it yet. But that's for, I guess that's just to discuss down the road. But just want to say thank you to everybody who's been watching. There's some of you that have watched all of them. Maybe you haven't watched them live. I haven't really told anybody. I usually kind of focus on the people that are here during the live stream. But many of you do watch the replays, and I'm thanking everybody that has watched the replays right now. So if you're watching this on the replay, thank you. You kick ass. I know sometimes you're not able to make the live streams, which is understandable, but you're still watching the replays, and I appreciate it, and I know Chris appreciates it as well. So thanks to everybody that's been watching the replays. And if you watch the live stream and you go watch back and watch the replay, that rules too. So thanks for that. But yeah, going back, like I said, we're doing 1989. Where were you in 1989? I ask. What were you doing? Were you alive? Were you in jail? I don't know. Where were you? What happened in 1989 to you? Anything you can remember in your life in 1989 that kind of stands out for you? Was that key pivotal moment, or just something cool that happened to you in 1989 if you were alive? Even if you weren't alive, is there anything from 1989 that maybe you dig? What are some of your favorite tunes or bands or movies or whatever from 1989? You can put all that shit in the chat. I like reading all that, because sometimes it reminds me, it's like, oh yeah, now I want to go jam that out, or I want to go watch that movie, or I'm going to watch that TV show, or whatever. So that's, these shows don't work as well without you guys in the chat. And also, those of you watching replays, leave your comments. Also, for Chris, he goes out and he reads every one of them. So, again, Fraser turned 42 in 1989. That's funny. Actually, the King had a pretty good time last night at Saxon and, what was it? Saxon and Uriah Heep. So, anyway, also some programming notes. Tomorrow on the Witching Hour, Carl's going to do a T-shirt raffle. He's got a bunch of badass T-shirts that he's going to raffle off. So make sure you guys tune in to the Witching Hour with Necron. I think Ken is going to be on there with him. Ken from Ken's Death Metal Crypt. is going to be joining them. I might be joining them to just kind of help them out with the raffles and the wheel and all that, right? So I highly suggest and recommend you tune into that. I think it's at 8 p.m. Central Time. So go tune into that tomorrow. It's going to be badass. Other than that, I just realized I haven't put the little ticker on the bottom. I was kind of busy doing something important. I was seeing if the family was going to win the actual $20,000 on Family Feud before I came here. So, and they did it. So, all right. What else? What else do I need to talk about? I will be appearing on Megan and her sister Lauren's podcast again soon. Going to be recording that sometime next week. I think on the 4th, if I remember. Or hopefully I got that right. So we'll be looking out for that. Part 2 of me on the Gemini Archives. And then Saturday, thank you, Fraser. Saturday is the Heavy Metal Market in Houston, which will feature, and this ties into Chris, it will feature Proscriptor of Apsu. He's going to be there signing shit for you. He's going to have Apsu merchandise. He sent me a list of some of the stuff that he's going to have, and pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. So just think about all the bands he's been in, projects and stuff, and he's going to have stuff from I think a majority of the bands he's been involved in. Obviously, especially Apsu, right? Heavy on the Apsu, which makes sense. So he will be there, and also Nikki Sicky from Verbal Abuse will be there. And Goat Throne and many other vendors will be there. So that's going to be badass. 12 to 7 this Saturday in Houston. And other than that, I think, one other. So we are. If you were watching the other day, I'm gonna do a show to where we try to. So Megan does all the portraits and all that, right? And it was a birthday on the 28th. Was it the 28th? Yeah, the 28th was her birthday, and so I was like, hey, we'll do a show and have her pitch in, and that way she can do a portrait of Necro Wolf. So that'll be coming up soon. So anybody that wants to chip in for the Necro Wolf portrait. And it'll help out Megan, with her artwork and all that. So that'll be cool. All right. With that being said, hails to you, Impede, and everybody else. I'll catch up with the chats here in a second. And so for now, let's bring the man on himself. None other than Chris Gamble Mezzadurus.
It's wonderful to be with everybody again for 1989. What a wonderful journey, traveling. I got to say, man, it's it really does make you live life again when you do everything through music and explain things. So thank you all for keeping the interest alive. For Francisco to have me on and do these 80s episodes, he's kind of helped me, in a sense, reinvent each one of my years again, going through the music with you. It's a wonderful gift you've given me, and I hope you enjoy tonight as well to, to end out the decade, and we'll see what happens after that. Talk some plans with the boss. I have 2 idea shows in my head, but the boss has got to okay them.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to play the song as an intro because I don't know. I guess I wanted to get going. So we will play the song. Well, it probably makes sense if I play it now. That way you can explain why you picked the song to intro. Right?
Sounds great.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get off screen and I'm going to play the intro song that I was supposed to play before I brought myself on. And then you will come back by yourself. All right, so everybody enjoy. This is Goreaphobia with Cremate in Hate.
Skeleton
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Greetings again from the old grave stomping grounds of Kensington. And my yeah, my real youth growth rebellion. Well, the Cremate and Hate. It's why I chose that song now is because the truth is, in the summer of 1989, it's when I started writing songs for Goreaphobia lyrically, and that was one of the first songs I've written was Cremate and Hate. Remember sitting right here at this same desk, writing those lyrics out in my old house in Kensington while chaos was going on in the streets. The other song I wrote at the same time of that is a song called The Burning, but it sounded too sort of, I didn't like the title that much. I forget what the hell I called it. And I remember calling it Corpse Grinder. And then I found out there was already a song by Massacre called Corpse Grinder. Somebody, I think it was Massacre, somebody had the title Corpse Grinder. And I said, okay, I can't have that. So I changed the song title again. And I think those lyrics eventually became, what did that song turn into? I'm trying to think of what song I turned that into. So it was the lyrics. Yeah, I think Devious Regradation. That's the song. It eventually turned into Devious Regradation. So yeah, that was the beginning, 89, of me starting to write songs for Bloodstorm. And you know, I was really keen set on finally doing this. I was 18 years old now. I already graduated high school in 89 from Frankfurt High. I had, from 80 to 89, I had it's funny because, you know, I had different sets of friends that, you know, as time went on, they just interconnected. And I think, like most of us do, as we get older, the interconnection we get with friends, I say it all the time, and it is true. It's proof positive that music is the magical connection that binds my soul and my heart to people, to friends. It's a sense of really belonging without belonging to people, which is really one of the things I love about music so much. You don't have to put you don't have to pretend or facade or feel any sort of expectations. You can enjoy the music for the power and energy that it is. So I was really getting to live that starting the summer of '89. So I had my friends from Massbomb, which was the public high school, like my friends Paul, Frank, John, and Greg, and a lot of my friends that have came on during the course of some of these episodes. Most of my friends went to Massbomb. And then there was my Mercy vocational friends, which is like Janine, who showed up on the '83 show, my old neighborhood crush, which is kind of fun. My friend Rich Tickner. So there's those friends. And then I had my friends that were in Frankfurt High School. And Frankfurt is, since that's the place I graduated from, the public high school there, from '88 and '89, it was a whole new different set of friends and more adventures, out and about with people, in the late teen years. And also the shape of what music, as I was seeing it, by the time it was '89, I mean, there was just seemed to be so much more in the underground now that I was involved with tape trading the year before, and opened up my eyes to a lot more possibilities and a lot more sounds. This is the year I definitely got more introduced to other sounds in metal, but only certain things really stuck. And that's just the way it was for me. One of the great things I remember in '89 too about music, I remember the Earache Grind Crusher compilation album, which was to me the final great compilation album of the decade for the 1980s for me. So I remember having that, which was awesome. And my friend Greg Pitluski that went to Massbomb with my buddies Paul and all, we, him, Alex, and myself helped him. It was his fanzine. Alex and I helped him do a couple interviews and a couple reviews, but this was the magazine that my friend Greg did, and Alex and I contributed. It was called Regurgitation Zine. And yes, that is my drawing. I made that. The Necroman with all this skulls and graveyard stuff, because I love my Lucio Fulci and all my other Italian horror zombie movies. So it was done on the typewriter. I was the one that typed all the interviews and everything up. You could see, like, I'll just show you how awful the typewriter was for the day. '89. Let me see. It just, some of the typing is just it didn't come out so good. We interviewed Schizo Lance, and the typing is like really broken, So but we did our best. We were we were heavily into this fanzine, which I explained before, which was Total Thrash, Scott Ealig's fanzine here in Philadelphia. We wanted to be a part of that too. So Greg decided to do a fanzine, and Alex and I figured, fuck, we already tape trade. Let's do this. We want to network music in Philadelphia more. I mean, we're coming out. I'm out of high school now, man, and I knew it was time to make the music really happen physically with these hands and my head, putting myself into that realm. It was my, climbing the fucking ladder for the first time in the scene with all the influences. So the excitement level is such on a constant overdrive of your influence, and how much more deep, dark, aggressive can we get? So your head stirs and it looks and it searches and it searches. So '89 birthed me to want to dive more into the underground worldwide, tape trade more, and search and discover more bands in the area, because bands like Metallica, all those bands that were big, they, in my view, they lost what had me love them and captivated me in the first place. It's changed. Looking back on it at my age now, I think a lot of those bands probably didn't expect to go as far as they did, but they did. And I got to say, thanks to Ozzy Osbourne taking Metallica out on the road in '86, it leveled everything up. Iron Maiden was having successful world tours. Judas Priest was still going around, you know. Yeah, Scorpion still touring it, but like glam rock was killing. It was killing to me and my friends. It was the disgust. We didn't want that in our metal scene. We didn't. There was no place for it, and that is the undisputed truth. There was no place for that with us back then. So a lot of the bands that we loved in the early and mid '80s were sort of gone, faded, or they've changed to the point where it wasn't palatable no more, man. The all the attributes and traits that attracted you in the first place were mere shadows of itself. They were shells of what they were. It got lost in probably in its own, I don't know, just sort of not having a broader landscape of what to do with what they were doing in that sort of heaviness. But it was also new and exciting in the '80s. Well, you know, that's the truth. And seeing how people are this day and age now with metal, it's never been more quite clear as the years go by just how much more that decade really shaped absolutely everything we have in the metal scene still to this day. I mean, these fests, it doesn't even matter if you have all the original members in some of these fests. As long as there's one member from one album that was good during a time period when they're good, it's like satisfactory enough. But it shows power in what the demographic of the 1980s heavy metal worldwide network really had to offer when things were fresh and new. And sounds were developing, and other bands were reinventing the sounds that they loved, et cetera, which was what influences do, right? So also, I just wanted to mention tonight, I found out 3 days ago, I was up at the corner deli getting a sandwich. I was getting a hoagie. I ran into this guy in the store who, when I was talking to Terry, the girl behind the counter, we're from Kensington. She lived on 8th Street, and I lived on Westmoreland and Rose Hill in the corner. So we went to the same grade school. And there was a childhood friend of mine. It was the Shunk family, Artie, Michael, and Earache. And they were my buddies since we were little kids. Art and I always, hung out and played together and stuff, and his little brothers did too. Early in the '80s, their little brother, he had a tragic end, and it changed us all because we're young. And one of our friends is, you're watching your friends and their family have that loss. It's tough, but you don't get it when you're 7 years old. It doesn't really register yet. So anyway, when I'm doing these decade things, those people stick in my head a lot. Naturally, I think it's a very natural thing for us to have those connections. So one of my, when I'm sitting there talking in the deli, and this guy's there, right? And next thing you know, he's mentioning the same things I'm mentioning about the old neighborhood. Then he asked what school I went to. I told him, and then I told him, I asked him what school he went to. He said Mass Bomb. I was like, oh, all my buddies went there. I was like, and he's like, who do you know? And you just go through the bullshit, and you tell, who you know and your faces and everything. And here we hung out with the same group of people. So, but I didn't recognize him at first. So we probably were hanging out at shows at the Empire Rock Club, and he was at the Ultimate Revenge. His name was Eddie Prescott. Eddie, if you're watching this, when we talked a couple of days ago, it was wonderful to reconnect with somebody like you from the old neighborhood again, man. I love it, and just as well as I do what our neighborhood really brought to the table as far as what we experienced at the time period and how we really had a communal gathering through the music. We all loved heavy metal music and rock. We really were a predominant rock and heavy metal neighborhood, and it changed when the drug gangs took over, as we talked about that. But anyway, one of the fellows that we used to both hang with was this guy, Billy Gorham. And he gave me some news that I wasn't aware about. Billy passed away a couple of years ago. He was addicted to pills. And I remember he had troubles back in '89, and he kind of, he succumbed to that environment. He's one of the guys that actually got wrapped up in it. Well, I didn't know it took him down. I haven't seen Billy since the day I moved out of Kensington. Half the people I haven't seen since the day I moved out of Kensington. Only now through the shadow of Facebook do I hear from anybody, So I found out Billy died, and I was good friends with his cousin Jimmy Harley, who lived around the corner from my house. Billy went with us to the Ultimate Revenge. He's a good guy. This first band I'm going to play is, it just so happens, I already had this first album picked, the first song for the night, but Billy liked this too. Everybody gravitated to this record in '89 because we loved the band that the former member came from, was on an awesome album in 1987. And this was, this is one of the records we used to jam with, and every once in a while Billy jammed it too. And this tonight's show for me, this is for Billy and Stacy. If you ever happen to see this, Stacy is Billy's younger sister. Stacy, if you hear this or see this, reach out to me. It'd be great to hear from you again. I'm sorry about your brother. I never knew. Billy was a cool guy, and we always we loved him, and he hung out with us. He was a good guy, and I hope you're okay, Stacy. Okay, wherever you're at. So tonight, this is all this for me, from my heart, is going to Billy. Well, in '89. Okay, let me start off the show. This is, I think, still one of the greatest death metal albums to emerge in the late '80s. Popular, no surprise today that the album's heaviness, very raw, down-tuned, had more of a Doom, early Black Sabbath sound to it. It was the first impression I had, but had every element of death metal, but also sort of had a new, to me, the album had a new sound of rawness in it. It just did. And it still is a loved album by myself in the death metal genre. I'd say it's one of the top 10 for me. So in 1989, Chris Reifert made Severed Survival, and this is Autopsy, Charred Remains.
Look at the
it's undeniable just how great Autopsy gave a whole new life of what death metal, I think, was, was definitely more of a cornerstone of what's to come in the 90s. I mean, Death Scream Bloody Gore, for me, was the start of that sort of style. It's just 87. So with Chris's version, I think, of what death metal was, it's to me, it's no question. You can just hear it's much heavier. For me and my friends, that Autopsy album had a lot more real essentials to be considered the term death metal. The entire album is a flawless record. It's no wonder it influences still today, and it's rightfully so. Just the sound alone, the playing, the execution, it's in my way of thinking about these kind of albums, there's just a natural essence to them. I mean, the personality of these guys like Chris Rayford, it really comes out in their songs. So I think it was a very critical album from 89 going into the 90s to still carry on what I was seeing as death metal being the new high than the thrash and power metal stuff of the 80s. Because like I said, it's the proof from back then was all those bands, they seemed like they were trying to popularize thrash. And it's, to me, it got worse. It started to sound worse than better. Autopsy saved underground music metal for me in 1989. It just did. It was one of the biggest things that helped save 1989 going into the 90s for death metal. It's my opinion. Next band that I chose here is just as influential to me, absolutely, in my songwriting. Just as influential as Necrovore. And that is the truth. Because for me, hearing this album, even though it was recorded years earlier, this is the first time I got to hear it. Hearing it was my, introduced to Napalm Death already, yes. Hearing this record in 89 and knowing that it was earlier it's tasting a new flavor. For me, it was a whole tasting a new flavor, something I missed, in the early 80s. It surfaced at this time, and I think it was at a very good time period for me to actually hear this album and discover right in synchronicity with a lot of the other bands, and opening myself up to hearing a lot more bands from overseas and around the world. This is I thought a great ultimate inspiration for playing fast, aggressive, loud, very punishing songs. Punishing. That's the thing that I think best about this song. Every song, it sounds like just glorified punishment right into your brain to absorb the power and energy level of this record. The sound of the guitars, the bass, the power of the drums. For me, the drumming on this album, this band, I personally find he's the best drummer in the grind era, because watching him play live at the Buffalo Day of Death, I had to watch him. I had to watch him play. It was how relaxed and fast he was. It wasn't this triggered sprinkler going on. This was his real body doing this. It was, man, it was volcanic thunder. It was just grinding rage. This album is a full-on assault of just horrific, grinding American chaos that it's a badge of honor. I think this album be placed in the chronicles of real underground extreme influence. This record, I think, really helped cornerstone the grind scene into being a lot more. I think this album, along with Napalm Death, in my opinion, were the two albums that grind had this sort of match for me to enjoy it. The playing, it's just phenomenal. I prefer this type of drumming more than I do blast. To me, this is a real drumming blast. So from start to finish, this album is just brilliant. It came out on Earache sub-label, Necrosis Records, and I believe would it be Bill Steer? I think helped get this record out finally, because it was originally under the name Genocide in 1986. But this is going to be a double shot because the songs are so short. So the boss let me put two songs back to back together. My two favorite out of the entire album. And I think there's like 20 or 21 songs or 19 songs on the record, but highly influential, still to this day for me in writing, just like Necrovore. This is Repulsion with Festering Boil into Festering Decay. I mean, 2 for 1. Oh, that album, start to finish, it definitely is the blueprint for grind. That's, to my opinion, it really is. It has, I mean, it's single foot blast. Dave Grave is a fucking absolute demonic war machine on those drums, man. He was awe-inspiring to watch live when I saw them at the day of death. I had to stand at the side and just watch that man go. Phenomenal record. And I'm sorry I went to a big spiel. I know I get, but this is one of those albums that still excite me to this day because if I'm having a really bad day where I'm pinging pretty bad, like I put on, of course, Venom, Motörhead, things like that. But, every once in a while, this Repulsion album's got to play start to finish. I don't skip a damn song on this record. So, nothing but eternal love for Repulsion. One of the best bands for me, still influences me to this day. So, moving right along now. As I stated, getting into the tape trading era of this year, a little bit more schooled into searching for new bands. As most of you probably know, I'm very influenced by Pentagram from Chile. I come to love a lot of South American bands, not all, but a lot. But for some reason, there's something about Chile that is, I think, out of all the countries in South America, I think I gravitate mostly to South American bands that are from Chile more than other parts of the country. That's what happens, I guess we all have our things that, turn you on in your mind. So I was, thinking back then that seeing a lot of advertisements for demos and a lot of interest in South America because of Sepultura and Mutilator, Volcano, Chacal, MX, like all those bands, Sarcophago, just, coming out, okay? 88 and 89 is when most of those bands started to hit us on the streets of Philadelphia. So for me, South America was hot. And I thought to myself, whatever happened to Pentagram? I don't hear about them no more. Where are they at? I come to find that they just were no more. And I can't remember hearing about Criminal yet because I think I don't know how long it was, but then Criminal formed. But anyway, I'm looking for a good Chilean band. So one of the bands that I found that I really was interested in and read a lot of great reviews from was this band Death Yell from Chile. And I've heard through the grapevine of reading things that they were a lot like Pentagram. So I got to hear their demo. And off of their Vengeance from Darkness demo in 89, 6-song demo, if you haven't heard it, it's great. This is the first track off of that demo. It is called Obsessed by the Vision. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard them before, I recommend the whole demo. It's really great. The last track, is it Heavily Injustice, I think is the last track. That's really cool. There's like a pitch shifter on his voice too on the vocals. Really cool song. Great demo. It's good stuff, man. It was refreshing to hear another band come out of Chile instead of just Pentagram, which is always going to be a heartfelt influence to me. So I have appreciation for that country a little bit more than others perhaps. But Death Yell's a great band from Chile. So the thing I liked about South America for me in 88, 89 is I still believe they had a lot of punk. They still had a lot of punk going into their music. Because I think that was the go-to formula for most of those bands then, which I think really made it attractive because America was getting more technical, and the bands that were, like I said earlier, that were popular were becoming more in that arena of commercial limelight. And as I said, for me personally, that wasn't working. So South America was saving underground metal for me, and Death Yell was one of the bands. So now I want to move on over to these next two bands are definitely very key bands that made the early's death metal sound, put them on the map for a style and a sound that it is still dominant today. It was new. It was new to me. It was just a great reflection on how the underground scene really operated around the world at that time, when you're getting to see a lot of it for the first time with tape trading and working on this fanzine with my friends and just getting my hands into it. School's done. I'm out. I have this to concentrate on now. So I was trying to run with it as best as I could. I started working a nighttime job. I used to work in a bookbindery on 33rd Street. It was a Gideon. We used to make fucking Bibles that you would get in hotel rooms. Bibles. So anyway, I worked in a bookbindery, from 3 in the afternoon till midnight, and I would take my radio in there when I was working on the conveyor belt, either on the sheet cutter for the books and the glue machine for binding, all that stuff. I got to see it. It was my first real job. So I would take these tapes in and play these demo tapes, on a break and at lunch. So one of the demos I got, I had 4 demos on one tape. Remember the old school days where everybody just copied you on a TDK tape or Memorex, and boom, you got a bunch of demos, which I still have over in my cases, and I got boxes of them downstairs. And that's how you heard most of the demos. We did. That's, you didn't have to pay for a lot of them, but sometimes if somebody networked, you just give them a couple bucks and you pay for the tape and you got it. Made it a little bit easier for us. So anyway, a whole new sound of death metal came. We had Autopsy, which was brilliant. Already, bam, that's going to continue the way I think death metal late in the mid to late 80s developed into. Autopsy was now becoming a poster child in a sense that it was one corner of the poster. Repulsion for me was another, and Napalm Death. South America was another corner of the poster. Okay, and now this corner of the poster that had the whole map of underground extreme death grind coming to going into a whole new decade. There's no denying that this country generated their own sound, and it's just proof positive. So in the early demo days, there was a rehearsal demo I got to hear that later became a great band who's still around today playing, and I think they're one of the great sounds that came out of Sweden. And this is my first time hearing Dismember, and this is off of their 89 demo rehearsal. This is Death Evocation. That demo brings back great memories. And this actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is the actual demo, the rehearsal demo that I had on. It's got all the other dismembered demos on there with my Necrovore demo on there too. Tapes busted, stickers hanging off, the old school tapes. Most of us had these at my age. And it's just what we did, It was a wonderful blessing, when you have stuff like this and you could still have it in your, have it in your case. I just firmly believe that Dismember was one of the bands that created the Swedish death metal sound. I mean, it's right there. So now Sweden was in the game for me. I really thought it was a special time for the Scandinavian countries, because it's just before all I hear is Bathory and Oz, Overdrive, those bands and things like that, those type of bands. So hearing like that was refreshing because it was synchronizing again to me. Now, like I said, we have the grind of America due to Repulsion's Horrified album for me, and Napalm Death was in that area. South America with the style of that punkish, black, chaotic, death thrash metal, and then you had I just said it. I'm drawing a blank here. Anyway, and you had Autopsy with the new sound from the what started in the late 80s, now going to go into the 90s. Now you had Sweden, and that was the map of extreme metal for me from 89 going into the new decade. So there was all that excitement. Another great band that, of course, one of the best probably. I would have to say, if I had to pick a top band from that era of that sound that really drove the wedge of, man, it was a whole real definite sound of death metal that had a horror landscape to it with nothing but really the most raw heaviness in sound. I couldn't remember any other bands having that Swedish guitar sound. And this next band is also neighboring to Sweden, and a lot of good things happened for this band and new changes as well. But here's the ad from the actual demo that we got. We actually put it in our regurgitation zine. We advertised in there for this demo, and we got it. So this next pick is off of Nihilist Only Shreds Remain demo. This is Revel in Flesh.
I'd rather prepare yourself for an equivalent. Die! 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 I'd rather prepare yourself for an equivalent. Die!
You know, hearing that at the time, we all, you know, Greg, myself, Alex, Harry, Pat, Frank, all of us, we all were just like amazed hearing these sounds from these other countries. Because for us, my ears alone just was taken by the guitar sound alone. It was it was unique. In 1989, I think the first thing that comes to my head is like, this is a new sound they got. And this really is going to change things for the death metal scene, I thought. I thought it was more exciting what was going on in South America and over in Sweden than it was anywhere else in the world in 89. I did. So Nihilist, I thought, you know, what if they really made their own album? What if they really, you know, they never got that chance, you know, to make an album under the band Nihilist. So I guess things changed. Johnny Helen left the band. Later he becomes Unleashed. So there's a lineup change, but the sound doesn't change, I don't think, that much. Well, to a point it does change, but I look at it as it's their style, definitely, with a bit more of an upgrade of sound quality. But all the elements are still there that make that, you know, that sound dominant. By the time they put their full-length album out, Left Hand Path, it was a game changer in our field. For us, it was. I mean, it was, Left Hand Path was one of the heaviest things that came out when it did. So after Nihilist, in between that album, they had, you know, a demo called But Life Goes On under the name Entombed. And I want to play this song, But Life Goes On.
Hell
Ladies and gentlemen, I just firmly believe at that time period, 89, Entombed was the death metal future. It was Entombed, Dismember, those bands were really, in my opinion, necessary to keep the underground death metal scene at the stage that it was, coming out of the 80s into the 90s. Their sound was critical. And I can't think of one person that heard them demos or that album when it came out later and just didn't like it. It's nice to see that a genre takes a whole new meaning and depth, and showing what people can do from 1980 to 89 and how as the years progress, finally getting to see pockets in the world how the metal scene operates in these other countries, just simply out of these those fanzines and tape trading with people and writing to them. They tell you, telling them firsthand experience what's going on. I mean, that's thrilling. That is a thrilling adventure. And music is a book. It's a soul, journey. It's it's definitely an element of what really makes your personality shine. I look at it that way. So that I think that the Swedish sound in '89 kind of encompassed the new map for me going into the '90s. So again, I want to show some appreciation with this next band for South America, for Chile. I said it earlier. It's just something about that country that has a little bit more liking, and my ears tend to gravitate more interest hearing. Maybe it is something in their mountain air, I don't, whatever it is, I think for what I like and the style that was going on, that really struck just as much as the Swedish death metal sound started to strike, what Autopsy was bringing to the table, what Napalm Death and Repulsion were bringing to the table. And Greg and Alex and Harry and I, we really were getting more into the tape trading field. And everybody still went to the more popular bands, Metallica and Testament and Megadeth and all that stuff, and Suicidal Tendencies and all that. And so the more people were kind of not venturing in deeper into those territories, I found myself becoming sort of I'm in a, I'm coming out of another cocoon. I'm in another vessel now, holding everything near and dear to my heart, but I'm carrying a new vessel now in my case with this underground death metal scene. So I want to go right back to Chile again. Another great band, a great demo. Used to see them advertised all the time. And I was like, give me that pentagram sound. I want it. Another band that was a that did it for me in their own way is this next band, Sadism, and this is off of their Perdition of Souls 1989 demo. This is Psychomental Stone. Sadism. For me, I always hear people say blasphemy, 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 sarcophago, sarcophago, sarcophago. For me, I say death yell, death yell, death yell, sadism, sadism, sadism. But that's me, man. I might be a bit of an oddball and it might be an unpopular thing to say, but that's just the truth of it. Great demo, great band. I think they've actually somebody repressed that or something. I don't know. Everybody represses everything anymore. It probably is, but great band from Chile. So I hope you enjoy that. So I want to get now into a record label that came into our sights and our ears in '89. All of us, just as much as Peaceville did with Autopsy, Severed Survival. Out of England, there was Earache Records. Okay, we all know that. I'm pretty sure to say at least 99% of the people here know all the Earache bands, at least to some degree. But that label was huge in '89. It spawned the next decade of bands to continue. I think some did it better than others. I personally do. A lot of those records still stand the test of time. The time period was remarkable for these bands to come out when they did, and it did keep the underground scene alive. I have to give credit where credit's due. It is just proof positive because, as I said, and anybody I would think anybody at my age around that time period has to say, like, all the Testaments and Metallicas and Suicidal Tendencies and even Slayer, they all really lost its luster. I mean, I don't know too many people back then that were ready to touch on this yet or had the interest to. It's more like I think they didn't have the interest to yet. Because most people back that I can remember in my area growing up, everything was album, album, album. I just wanted more because that was me. That's just kind of how I am. So I think Greg, myself, Alex, Pat, Bob, we all saw we all saw this coming in the '90s. and was very exciting. So Earache was new. That was the new record. That was a new record label for us out of England, in coming up in '89. So one of my favorite people in music is going to be coming up next here. Although he did not play on this album, but the original album that he recorded in '86. His drumming and vocals, for me, he's really a major part of the sound of those songs, even when they got recorded, re-recorded onto what I think Trey is the one that considers it the real first full-length album. But it's my favorite song on the album because Mike Browning wrote it, and without Mike Browning, things might be a little bit different with that band. A little bit. I think Mike's songwriting and influence was much better, but it was represented at a full level of extremity that was a step above what was done with Abominations of Desolation. So the first time hearing Morbid Angel off of Earache Records, Altars of Madness, thank you, Mike Browning, for this song, Chapel of Ghouls. You know, between Autopsy, Sever, Survival, Repulsion, and Altars of Madness, it really gave a great, real vibrant outlook for playing extreme music even more. And me starting Goreaphobia, you know, with Alex and Kevin and Henny and Craig and all, it was for us. The writing was on the wall to have this more new intensity sound flushed with our influences that we grew up with as best as we could. You know, interpretation really is the greatest form of flattery. Even if it's a bad interpretation, if someone is paying attention to what you're doing and they either get a good or a bad out of it, to me, only benefits the person that they are aligning themselves with. So some influence might be better than no influence, you know? I guess if that makes sense or not. But I can appreciate what Morbid Angel really did with that Altars of Madness album. But I have a special place for Mike Browning. His work was a really, it was important to their early structure of songs, because a lot of those songs on that record Mike wrote with Trey and the rest of the band. The interpretation came out better on that album with those songs. That's just the way we saw it. But Mike, without Mike, those songs would have been different if he didn't have his writing influence in it. And I think that's just the truth. You know, and another thing that drew us to Morbid Angel, if I would just interject real quick and I'm going to move on, is, you know, reading articles in some magazines like Ripping Headaches and Death Thrash Mayhem and Total Thrash. There was a lot of talk about the Florida death metal scene, which really, it was obvious. There was. Elwich was already down there. I was already writing to Pat Ranieri. We knew the excitement. Death was down there now. Massacre, Executioner. All these bands were coming through the floodgates of that state. I remember hearing so much about this band Amon, right? Didn't know nothing about, just read a lot. They're going to be better. The one thing I heard just through reading things that I can remember is they were better than Possessed. They were better than Necrovore. They're more, and then by the time I heard them, it was a big letdown, because it wasn't nowhere near, for me, the standard of what Necrovore was or what Possessed has been. You're talking 85, and that to me was the first death metal album, in my opinion, was Possessed, because of the song Death Metal, plain and simple. I just considered it, that was the death metal album. That was the moniker of Death Thrash. So anyway, I think Morbid Angel was very important for that sound. And they were, at the time, I think Morbid Angel was the closest thing to Necrovore that I heard, which made me love it. And then I come to find out years later that Trey, and I've heard this from quite a few reliable sources, that Trey was trying to get John DePlache to join Morbid Angel. They were actually rehearsing together. That might have been an even more phenomenal album. But hey, the mystery of it makes it even more grand. It makes it so much more just very exciting and interesting to think about it in your mind. So when I hear that album, I get a lot of those other side thoughts too. So I just want to say there's so much insight I had with Altars of Madness album. I had to be there. So next, I'm moving on, and I got to say the Earache label at the time were the new great thing, and it was exciting. It's a shame that what all these labels turned into now. I think they're absolutely terrible what they came into. They're just, it's a shame, but that's just the way things go with I guess, business operation, who you're let into your organization and run things. I don't know. Desperate. You got people who can't tell you the difference between a Morbid Angel record or a Motörhead. If they have running things, eventually they run all these labels into the ground. But in '89, Earache was hot. So now there's a new sound. Okay, a new band for me with a whole new sound. It wasn't death metal. It wasn't thrash metal. It wasn't speed metal. It wasn't grind. It wasn't punk. It wasn't hardcore. I didn't know what to call them. We didn't. But all we knew, it was just a whole new thunderous level of heavy. Just heavy sound. And later became what I have known it to be as industrial. And I consider this band the first industrial band. This is the first time hearing them, and they amazed me just how heavy you can make your instruments. Just the heaviness was like the drive of the music, not so much the riffs, but it was the actual combination of the heaviness and the simplicity of it that just, it was pounding steel. It was just raw. It was just such a raw, deep, earthreal sound. Vibrant. A whole new landscape of sound. Industrial. And this was the first band that introduced me to that sound. New on the scene for me, captivated my imagination. And Fraser will be happy, my friend, because this band is out of England. This is Godflesh off his Street Cleaner, Christ Bait Rising. So for me, that's the favorite song off of that album. And this is the only album I ever liked by that band. That's really the only industrial album I liked at all. But 89, that's the first time I heard something like that in that way. And that album stuck. I'm not really an industrial guy. I'm not into like really that kind of thing. It's not my thing. But it's a different sound level of like a soundscape of instrument. It's not complex or it's brilliant or this, but it's, I think, in the way that it's done is so off the wall for me that I caught myself thinking of imagery like for instance the cover. I mean, that's the image when in Altered States, all the crosses in hell. I always thought that was great. I loved that movie. William Hurt, right? I think that's the actor's name. And what's his name? Jennifer Allen or Karen Allen, I think was the girl in the movie too. But anyway, I connected imagery with sound on that level, and I thought it interesting. And I thought, if that can make me think a bit outside the box, it was worth paying attention to. But that's it. It's like sort of a one and done. But at that year, that album, yeah, that song, that really did it for me. But it's one and done, man. It's the style that didn't stick, and that's the only album that I've ever liked by them. You know, I saw them live and played with them back in the Goreaphobia days when Napalm Death, Godflesh, Nocturnus did that tour. That was it, man. That's it for that. But I wanted to just show my appreciation just for that album, and specifically that song. Staying on Earache, there's quite a few albums on Earache that year, but the next band I want to pick is, well, that I did pick, was actually a new to me. I never heard about them before until the Earache compilation album, but I found their sound to be, at the time when I thought, I'm like, wow, it had the heaviness of the Swedish sort of guitars. So the guitar sound of, like, Dismember, Nihilist, it really had that deep, really deep down-toned drive to it. Just very killer, just fucking blood dirt guitar sound, man. I loved it. And I found them to be incredibly heavy when I heard this album. Out of all the other Earache records, I thought this one, that was really a great album, and I thought had a better future than some of the others. And obviously it did. But this album, their debut album, is my favorite by far. Just heaviness extraordinaire. So I'm just going to get right to it. Frasier, again, my friend out of England, off of Bolt Thrower's Realm of Chaos album. My favorite song on there, World Eater. Well, I thought Bolt Thrower was one of the bands at that time period that had a lot of future potential. They didn't fall at first hearing to me, my ears, so much as a gore, autopsy, death, repulsionist sort of themed band. They were more about war and fantasy and things. It was like, I don't know how to explain it, except at the time period, all I thought was this band, it could be like something that probably Manowar probably should have headed towards, but keeping a bit more of their heavy metal sound, but sounding more aggressive like that. I think that's the best way I can put it, the way my mindset was about that album for '89. War Master, second album, great too. After that, I was completely lost. I gave up pretty much every Earache band. I lost interest in pretty fast as the '90s went on. It didn't take long for a lot of it for me to fall apart. But gotta say, folks, in '89 now, this was setting the platform for the '90s. It really was. Roadrunner, all those labels, Nuclear Blast, they were all set in kind of the '90s platform. Everybody wanted to go to record it, Sunlight Studios and all that, and it became to me something I just wouldn't want to get trapped into. But we're starting out, so you definitely had your ears open to it, and it did influence Goreaphobia enough to the point where we knew that those sounds for death metal were this is going to have to be something that's going to be, you're going to have to be up to par with. You're either going to have to be as good as this or better, but in your own way. And I always figured you could do that and still keep all your main influences. And in '89, I saw that. My biggest eye opener that was seeing that in Repulsion. That really was, for me, it was proof positive you could do that in Autopsy. Those, and the demos. I mean, it's there, but we're starting out fresh and new too. So you're feeling things out. So I want to give an acknowledgement to Terrorizer's World Downfall. That's a great album, of course, but Napalm Death and Carcass, great in their own right as well, of course. But me being me, I always look to see what the bands that I loved for so many years, what are they doing in this year? What are they still bringing to the table? Do they keep their sound identity? Did they get lost in trying to be popularized, but like trying to be a little bit more commercial ended? now you got your Metallica and Megadeth, Slayer, all and Anthrax doing all their big four stuff, and I don't know. I didn't pay attention to any of it, but I loved the Dark Angels Leave Scars album. That was a great one. Devastation, Signs of Life. There wasn't too many albums that I was liking from bands that, from the early 80s and the mid 80s. I wasn't seeing the same. I just wasn't seeing the things that made those bands great to me anymore. As I'm getting now, I'm 18. I moved from a bad neighborhood into the neighborhood I'm in now. I watched before I left Kensington, I watched a lot of people did go down. They didn't end up well. And by the time we got out of there, it was September. It's right after summer, and that's when we moved here on Pratt Street where I'm at now, and really became full on more into doing Goreaphobia in September. So that was all panning out. Kevin Brennan wasn't in the band anymore. It was me doing vocals and bass. It was just Alex, me, and Craig. Henny was there, but he really wasn't. He was like the John Hand of our band. So leaving the old neighborhood and coming into a new neighborhood, once again, it's a change, and I look to music to be my comfort zone, my friend. And I'm thinking, what are my old friends doing in music that I love? Okay, I guess that's what I'm getting at here. One of my greatest loves, ever is Voivod, and I'm a very devout fan still at 89, and I used to play their record every day going to work to that bookbindery, 3:00 in the afternoon, riding the L, the Frankfurt Market line down to 30th Street Station to go and make fucking Bibles of all things, right? So listen to Autopsy and everything else, but it's just got to work, man. You got to make money. My father, I had to help my mother and father now. Me and my brother are of age. I'm out into the world now, and I'm out into the world with this new music too. So it was exciting to hear these sounds, but I always constantly looked to the bands that really did build me up to where I am. And Voivod is one of them. And 1989, they put out Nothing Face. And Billy, I remember Billy really liking Voivod as much as the rest of us did. And he used to have the white Nothing Face t-shirt. Last time I saw Billy was at a Goreaphobia practice with Pat Martin, Bob, and Greg and them guys. Billy was there. With once we kind of moved out of rehearsing down on Frankfurt Avenue, I didn't really see them guys anymore. I didn't see Pat no more, Bob, Greg, Billy. I didn't see them. So it's just, I don't like to see my old friends go down, but they do. I mean, we're getting older. But I remember people's voices and faces and the things I did with them through songs. And as always, Voivod's been one of those bands that have always been a near and dear sound and influence to my heart, not just musically, but as a part of my life and character. Helped me, they were a band that helped me think, because they were a band that thought very well with their music. So this one is for Billy Gorham. Stars rest his soul. He was a good guy. He was a good kid. It's a shame the pills got him. I never knew it. It's still just hearing that earlier in the week. It's sad. It just is. It's sad when you hear a friend go, and I haven't seen him. So like I said, if Stacy, you ever see this again, just reach out, man, and like I hope you're okay. So this is for Billy, okay? This is off of Nothing Face, Voivod. This is The Unknown Knows. Well, Voivod kept my faith. I love that band. They're the best conceptual band, not just albums, but they're the best conceptual band for me in my life. I remember by '89, I used to think of them a bit in the field of Rush as far as heavy metal conceptual albums. I mean, they're two different styles of music, obviously, but the composition and what they can create as a soundscape with instrument and songwriting, artwork, everything, structure, atmosphere. There is, for me, there's none other like Voivod, and I still appreciate what they do still to this day. Probably more so than a lot of other bands that are from the past. Even with Piggy gone, Chewy's doing a good job having a sound, because realistically, anybody that's a Voivod fan had to have always known, up until we were proven wrong, that you could never replace Piggy on guitar, because there isn't anybody else that plays like that guy. There just isn't. The man was a genius with his guitar. I mean, the band is genius in its own right, to be able to write and perform conceptual band, and the albums are conceptual to the band's concept. It's just a great thing. I love it. I was glad to see Voivod still holding that torch that I loved from '84 all the way up to '89, 5 years. I thought it great. Nasty Savage was on tour with DRI. They did that tour with DRI for Penetrating Point. That came out in '89. Great album. I think it kind of lacked in sound apart from the other albums that Nasty Savage did, but still a great album anyway. For me, it was the weakest of the '90s. So yeah, these things are changing with bands that develop me as a person through sound and playing and attitude and style and the rebellious of it. And it's funny because at the same time music's change, you see your world changing around you outside, growing with your friends, making new friends, and growing out of things with friends. People just start disappearing, and you don't think of it until later in life. I started thinking about it. Once I left my neighborhood, it changed me in another way. I let a lot of prejudices go when I got out of that environment, because it was just gangland. It was very unlivable and very unpleasant. So music was the answer, was the escape. So I always knew I had to do something to keep that going in the escape. And I always kept my love for the bands and the sound of heavy metal rock and roll music close to my heart. Without it, I probably could have wound up lost in that environment back then. But I didn't. So just taking this journey is great. I love just seeing how things developed by the time it was '89. Now I'm getting my hands on of being in a band and creating music. Still loving my old influences, hearing all these new ones now from South America. Grind coming in, the Swedish guitar, guttural death metal, real just volcanic sound. The element of horror being at its extreme. It was very needing and nurturing to me, to my character, and the environment change, going into the world, working, nighttime, and it just did. And I'm thankful for it and all the people. So going back to the Florida scene, this next band, I think today, when I think of Florida death metal bands, I think that this band is the most consistent to their original sound. I mean, that's just how I see and hear it. I don't think this band steered very far away from their first record and even their second record. I think it stayed very much the most consistent in its sound and style. For my ears, more than any other of the bands in the death metal Florida scene, that was the early '90s. Just played out of sheer heaviness. Creating an album with no lyrics at all, just using his voice as the instrument of absolute terror and horrific destruction. And they changed their name from Executioner to Obituary. And in 1989, Roadrunner Records put out their debut album, and it was a slam dunk for all of us, man. This band helped keep America death metal on the map, just like Autopsy did in '89. So, off of Obituary, Slowly Rewrite. My favorite song off the album. I love the beginning riff. Blood Soaked. I think it was a great debut album. Really was. I think Obituary, as I said, out of all those Florida death metal bands, is the most consistent. They focus on heaviness and simplicity, which is really a great dynamic in death metal music. It really is. I'm not a big fan of overproduced, popular, really polished out death metal tuning out guitars. It sounds absolutely like a slop fucking mess. It should be raw and heavy. There should be, it shouldn't be conditioned. I think overproduced death metal albums sound absolutely terrible to me. I lose interest. They're a turnoff. I don't like it. That Slowly We Rot album, it sounds absolutely, it's perfect. I think it sounds perfect. And it's obviously a big influential sound. And I always thought them way more interesting and heavy and exciting than what Death turned out to be and what Deicide turned out to be. That's just me. I think Obituary's got them both beat. That's my opinion. This is what it is, folks. It's just how I hear it. So now, another band that I got turned on to earlier from Holland. Second album was even fucking better than the first, I thought. No, that's not true. That's not true. When I heard it, though, I was more excited. Probably, that's more fair to say. I think I was more excited about hearing the second album because I knew how great the first one was. I think that's more appropriate, Out of Holland, I'm just going to get right into it, folks, because I think every song on it's a great song. I think I think it's one of the best second albums, like a follow-up album from a debut. So let me just get to it, people, because this I thought was a band that was definitely needed in the death metal scene, hailing out of Holland. Pestilence off of Consuming Impulse, The Process of Suffocation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that Consuming Impulse album was another definite needed kick in the death metal scene. Also, I think Coroner's No More Color is a definitely good shout out too, as well. Wow, what can I say here? I got two more picks, and I just, I'm listening to these things, and I'm talking to you folks and everything, and as I said, from doing 80 up to now, really helps me live my perspective on the driving force in music, be it rock, metal, death metal, thrash metal, classic rock. Really how important that the spiritual character of music is. It's definitely a magical entity that is angelic to me. It definitely got me out, maybe not out, but through a lot of decisions as a teenager. And I think most of us do that. Most of the people I know gravitate towards, their love and interest is something that they feel they belong to, other than just a person. And I believe in our generation, music was always that undisputed friend. And when I left Kensington, I left so much of my friends behind. And like I said, you don't think of, you're not seeing people no more. You're not going to see them because you're young. You're like, I'm out in the working world. I'm young. I'm going to live my dream. I'm going to make music. I'm going to do records. I'm going to play with these bands. I'm going to enjoy this music. I'm just going to keep it going. I want to keep going with this music the best that I can with like-minded guys as hard and as long as we can. Until I can't use these no more, or this head is completely just shot and I can't think for myself or something, I'm going to do the best I can out of everything I've learned this music. Even in the 70s, growing up with Kiss and The Who and AC/DC, Rush, all of that stuff. I always believe, never forget your rock and roll roots as well. And in 89, I wasn't thinking about nothing like that. I didn't want nothing less than what I was already playing. But, when you do reflect, and like I said, music becomes an identifiable thing with the face and the voice of your friends and people that you knew. And you remember them. And I always use music to remember people. I really do. And so I haven't seen half of the people since I left in 89. I miss them. And I hope that I always hope that somewhere down the line I could see, my friend like Janine that was on here before, if I could ever see Harry Wurzel again and his sisters, Debbie and Colleen, if I can see my friend Frankie again, who lives out in Montana. There's a lot of them, and some are gone. Like I said, I found out one of my friends is gone. So, just you think and reflect, and I always found comfort, moral comfort, in my heroes in music. Because it just unites me. It just unites me with what I think and feel of my friends and the people that I loved from my past, that I love them today. And they help make me who I am, and I never want to forget that. You people help. You've given me the gift of reliving these years, doing this music and these episodes with all of you. I don't know how many seen them all or whatever, but I just need to say this here and now, that it's a priceless gift, your time. I appreciate it so much. So I need to reflect on my rock and roll roots from one of my heroes that, well, still around today. And in 1989, unbeknownst to me, in 1989, apparently she was still going strong on her solo career. Well, she had her band, but by that time she was getting to be more, she's almost becoming a solo artist in its own right. But she made a compilation album of songs she recorded all through from like 83 all the way up to about 88 or 89, all the way up to I think 89, I think. It was an album, that just reflected the years, because she was now she was a mother growing up with her children. She was raising her children. But, like I say, you get older and you miss a lot of I do. I miss a lot of my rock and roll. I love it. I still love it to this day. There's so much I still find out of it is exciting, just as I do out of these demos, out of Death Yell and Sadism and Dismember and Nihilist. I find just as much excitement and love for that era and those people in rock and in music in general. It helped me navigate, and my person needs to keep that acknowledgement, and it should be honored, because that's just, it's how I'm wired. It's how I am. So, off the beaten track of from what everything was going on, I'm throwing an odd one out here, but I need to acknowledge it because I love her. And she still had music coming out. So in 1989, she did a rare TV appearance in Australia for her one song off of an album called Unreleased Emotions. It was a comp album. So my love to one of my heroes still to this day that helped me get through an awful lot in my life. This is Suzi Quatro, and the video is called There She Goes.
She's so fine, looks tough tonight, gonna sway to a private beat. She's the kind, don't waste no time, keep your boyfriends off the street. Oh, 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 there she goes. Oh, 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 there
as you all know, I love Suzi Quatro. I feel it's important to always love and appreciate every aspect of what really can make you you, and never compromise no matter what. I love it. I love it, and I love her. She's just a very inspirational woman and an entertainer. And I had the pleasure once in a while. She actually answered me a few times talking to her in a chat. It's a great person. Sometimes they say it's not good to meet your heroes, and this, and I understand that it is. A lot of people could be a big letdown. But I always thought of her, and I told her this. I said, it's like you're a big cousin that I never met, because she reminds me a lot of just how my cousins were, Lisa and Joanne, Charlotte and Kathy. And it was more like that when I read her book. I was like, wow, I get it. So I like that. I like books, autobiographies from rockers from back in the day, and hearing what they go through. It fascinates me. The walks of life in music, and what got them to where they were, plain and simple. When a person can map out their soul through their art, it's just, as I say before, it's like putting your finger in water and the ripples go out and they hit and they come back to you in some way, sometime in some way. Maybe sometimes the ripples just keep going, but that's what I love about music. It comes back to me, and I love that, and I want to do the same thing. I always want to be in touch with my past, because the more I'm in touch with my past, I think the better my future will be. And just for myself as an individual, I can look at myself and say, yeah, it's exactly how I am. I know here and there, we can't control what happens around us, but I can control how I think and feel about what I love, and what I love about the people that are involved with me, and how they've influenced me or touched me in ways to show me things, and maybe to be better at what I want to become, because your friends can kind of always see things in you that you don't, because I think it's human nature to be very critical of yourself. I'm an optimistic person and all those things, but yeah, I miss a lot of people when I left that old neighborhood and started life here. And just like my friend Vicky, I found out she passed away. You just be cool to each other, man. Don't let stupid shit get in the way of your friendship. Don't let some motherfucker get in the way of any of your friendships. You got some dude or some chick that don't want you to talk to some other guy or some other woman because there's insecurities. Get the fuck away from insecure people, man. They do nothing but tear you down, and that's all they look for. I don't know if it's good advice or not. It's just advice I got. I'm a trusting person. I let a lot of people in, and I've paid the price over time. But I stayed me, and I did a lot of staying me through the music and what I love to do. And I really emphasize that all of you joining me and doing these shows with me, and Francisco giving me this platform, I don't have enough words of gratitude. I know I say it to everybody, but it is true. Your time is precious and priceless to me. Thanks for being with all these years, taking this journey with me. When I move here out of this location and go to Florida, Pensacola, Florida, to be with my family, for the sake of my daughters, I have to think of my daughters now. My truth of it is, I think probably some aspects of my career will change. And I don't know what hand I'll be dealt, but I'll deal with it, and I will maintain as best as I can, and I'll always be around, and I always want to be the best I can, and I want to always be joined with all of you. And I know there's going to be a lot of people I'll never see again when I leave here, and it makes me sad. It does. I'm sad about it. I had a lot of heavy thinking over the past couple months, so it's being at 53 and having to do it again. I get attached. I do. I don't take friendships and relationships for granted. I don't believe in doing that. I'm very karmatic. I'm very occult driven. I believe in that. I am a practitioner, but I'm very lighthearted, and I keep most of that stuff on a more it's a personal level because it's spirituality, and I channel it through music, and that's the art form I get to do with you. And that if it that's happy, great, it works, it's happy, great. I just want to dedicate this last song just to all of you. Quite simply, this is, to me, in my life, is the most consistent band that's ever existed. He's my Elvis. He is a god to me, a legend by the definition of the word legend. Instead of all these stupid people getting tagged with that word, I hate when everybody uses the word legend so loosely for anything. It's like such a hosed down, meaningless, mundane word anymore. But the true definition of a legend is this man and his band, Motörhead. And the legend of Motörhead, to me, is a legend of rebellious music. And it's our life, it's our language, it's our uniform we wear in our soul. And Lemmy believed in it, in every strum of his bass, expression in his voice, tap of his foot, tip of his cowboy hat, whatever it was, singing Whorehouse Blues with his harmonica, pointing his bass at you, gunning it, from Overkill to the day he shut his eyes. But in 1989, there's great live footage of them. And with the lineup of Phil Campbell, Wurzel, Mickey Wurzel, Filthy Phil on drums, and Lemmy Kilmister on bass. This is live footage for one of my favorite Motörhead songs that they play, this live in Rio, Brazil in '89. This is one of my favorite Motörhead songs. It's off of Overkill, but this lineup was playing it live in 1989. I just want to say the message of the song of stay clean, I think of it as stay clean, stay cool, stay solid, and stay yourself, man. And I'm always going to be there. And I enjoy the music with you. Thank you for everything you've given me tonight. Stay clean, people.
Stay clean.
All right, there it is.
There it is, boss.
1989.
Thank you for the whole years.
Another excellent episode. I only got up once because I couldn't hold my piss in anymore. But I made sure I was back in time to push stop and play and all that shit.
You're fantastic, my friend.
But yeah, thank you. Just to kind of somewhat wrap it up. I don't even remember when you did the first one, but it's been it's cool. It's kind of like everybody got to see. I guess got to know you somewhat.
Yeah.
Through these episodes, which is what made it cool. People
did.
here, like myself, never knew what the fuck Kensington was, but I know what Kensington is now. People found out about your friends. This is how I found out that you were on the fucking Ultimate Revenge 2 at the beginning of the video.
Yeah, my brother.
We found out about your destruction patch and getting kicked out of kicked out of school because of your destruction patch.
Yeah, my possess record.
Yeah, so many great stories. So yeah, for me and everybody else, I know you're saying thank you, but we thank you for sharing. Not only the music, but I think people will echo this sentiment. But anybody could just play songs. But I mean, I don't want to say the songs aren't important because obviously music is important to all of us. Anybody that's ever if you ever moved your head to a song once in your life, it had that effect on you, no doubt about it. But just, I don't want to be, music is obviously important to us, but the stories that go along with it. Everybody has their story. Only Chris can tell his story. Only I could tell my story. Everybody has their own story. Yeah, we heard the same album. But how did that album affect me? Right? Everybody's is different. A lot of the 89 was a real important year for me because that's when I made the turn from, rock, thrash, a little bit of death metal, with Death and Possess and things like that. But 89 was a pretty pivotal year for me. And that's when I started discovering the totally extreme bands. Right. Earache, you mentioned Earache Records. Earache Records, I don't know. If you weren't there, I don't know if you can understand the magnitude that label had because it was one of those things. It was one of those things where it really was. Like Peaceville was another one. Even Relapse. I mean, all these labels, they went to shit or whatever. Right. But at one point in time, they were responsible for getting the music out there, getting bands to get names out there. They helped out a lot. If it wasn't for Earache, I would have never heard Godflesh. If they would have been on another label, I would have never. And exactly. Godflesh was one of those things that it was. I think why people that were into metal and extreme music gravitated to it because it was so different. It was so heavy. Different. It's like, what is this?
It was heavy sound. To me, at first, it didn't sound like a song. It just sounded like heavy sound instruments, exactly. Without a real song. It was completely different.
Yeah,
that's what attracted me.
It was like a soundtrack to me. You know what I mean? It's like a soundtrack. If you're into
absolutely
soundtracks, that's what Goreaphobia. That's what Godflesh was. And I'm with you. I kind of fell off after that. I liked the first mini CD and that one.
Right.
I kind of fell off after that, but labels like if Earache wouldn't have put that out, would I have ever heard it? I don't know, probably not. So Earache was important. Yeah, there was many labels, and I mention it all the time. Those labels influenced all the other smaller labels.
They did.
The 7-inch labels and things.
I was
like
there.
That.
I saw it.
I know. That's what. Yeah, exactly. And it's just unless you're there. It's kind of hard to I guess maybe comprehend it or understand it. I don't know, but It was like I said, I was young, but '89 was pivotal for me. I did a whole show on '89. How much it fucking '89 was just amazing. There were so many different things coming out at that time. Just about to go into the '90s, where we didn't know a few years later it was all going to kind of get a little too commercial and too.
It broke away fast. It didn't take too long for it to fucking kind of choke. It didn't. And me personally, I accredit that to labels that started out really good. They let the wrong people in, and when they let the wrong people involved, it just went down.
Yeah. When it became more of a business, it kind of
college credits.
Those labels, huh?
People that work at record labels to get college credits for business.
Right.
I know there were some of them that worked in Nuclear Blast. That's what they were there for.
Yeah, exactly. It's like once
the fan anything.
Yeah, once it became more of a fan releasing stuff that they liked, it completely changed. The whole the whole point of doing that label changed. It went from shit, there's some money in this maybe, and that's when it went to
tax
shit.
write-offs.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've mentioned this before, man, but I remember when I first saw. It was the third Carcass album. I saw it like at a mall record store. I was like, "What the hell? Why am I seeing a Carcass album?" And after that, I was like, "All right, And even then, I was still young, but I'd been in it long enough to where I understood, like, yeah, this just doesn't feel right. It just does. It seems weird that mom and pop could just go over there and, hey, look. There's a Carcass record or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like...
It takes the luster away from what it meant to, our age, our generation. It just did. And I think that's why I say... that's why, for me, that's why I like rock still so much. I appreciate it more because it's just an art form. It's a style. I just don't hear it no more. You're not going to hear a Van Halen, a Led Zeppelin. You're not going to hear that no more, I don't think. I don't see it.
No, yeah.
I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, and rock and roll, there was no... The rock and roll stuff that I like obviously AC/DC is one of the biggest bands on earth.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's not like there was no small labels that were going to put out. That's a completely different thing. The underground music was everything that wasn't. The opposite, as far as maybe some of the attitude came from that, but as far as like, hey... having this dream of playing stadiums, there's just that wasn't a part of it.
And you know what, Francesco? I never thought, and this is true, I never thought when I started Goreaphobia to think of, I'm going to be lucky like Metallica and go out with the Ozzy Osbourne or something.
No.
My goal was, this is so heavy, I want to do this just because it makes me feel so good about my energy level and my personality. It's talking to me on a level that nobody else can talk to me at. And it's going to understand me without prejudices because it's going to be something I'm controlling for my heart and soul. I didn't care about what level of popularity. I'm just going to do it.
Right, exactly.
And I didn't want to prostitute myself out that way because Lemmy said it all the time. Once you give in to what you're doing, that's the real prostitution.
Exactly.
And I believe the man.
And there was always something to me about that danger element, the scary element of like, because nowadays I can walk around with the most filthy, disgusting shirt and it's not going to affect anybody. If it does, it's rare. But there was something about it was just such a small group of people that were into it, and it wasn't socially acceptable at all. It's like, everybody thought when I was a kid, I was a devil worshiper and this and that. I mean, everybody has that story. You know what I mean? It's like, but.
And there was adventure behind it, too. You had to go out and seek it out. And usually you would seek it out with your friends. So there's just so much more of a connection with your friends. Boy, guys or girls, tape you showed. Your friends.
Yeah, like the tape you showed. That's exactly how I was. I got tapes where I got albums. Just like different albums that I taped from friends, and I would put sometimes 2 albums. I'd put like 7 inches on a cassette and things like that, right? Yeah. That was huge.
And helping my buddy Greg do the fanzine that we did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it's so cool that you found that. I remember you mentioning that.
Yes.
Shit, it must have been like the first time you ever came on the show. You might have mentioned it.
I might have, but I know. Yeah, we did talk about it. Yep. I found
but
it.
it's cool that. But
Old
yeah, no,
typewriter style.
It was new. It was new. It's weird, because I mean, maybe I'm just out of the loop, but it was just a new thing, and I don't know if there really is new things anymore in music. I don't know. Maybe there is, and I'm not aware of it. But
it's too much of the same thing. It's a super oversaturation.
Right.
And part of it's the internet. It's just the age we live in.
Yeah, no, yeah, and you're right. You're right. It's just it was cool that it was something new and different, and it's like holy shit. What is this? Yeah. Exactly. Oh yeah, my buddy George. Good point. The record stores that ordered all the underground albums for you or whatever. Yeah. Just, you know what I mean?
Case in point. Yes, absolutely.
And what's
it was excitement.
What's weird about that? And I don't know. What's the people that own those weren't people that were into the underground music. It was just regular mom and pop kind of places where they're like, yeah, all right, you know what I mean?
So, there was an Italian guy in our neighborhood, man. He was like a mob dude. He had the slick back hair, button shirt. He was like ordering, Judas Priest records for us and Iron Maiden and Venom records and stuff. He was like, what is it? But he looks like, like that scene in Bronx Tale when Sonny goes into the bar with the, like his bar, like one of them guys, but he's running a record store.
Yeah, well, hey, in Houston, there was a store called Sound Plus where the guy. It was just a man and his wife, and they were originally from New York. But you went into that store, and yeah, maybe they had a little help from some other people, but you went into that store, and it had it's just like, whoa, how are they getting this stuff? How do they even know about it? And, it was like the early days of Earache and things like that where, I'd walk in, and they had like this, because I was just a cassette guy, They had like this plexiglass thing of just like all the cassettes. Like if I would have taken a picture of that then and showed it today, people were like, "Holy fucking shit!" Anything from Earache stuff to Earache to Peaceville, you name it. All the import labels and things like that. But it was just like, wow. I kind of miss that going into a record store and be like, holy shit, you know what I mean? I can't believe they have this, So
it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. That's just how you were with your buddies, or your girlfriend, or you were with your friends. You're introducing new people. You only have so much money. He buys this tape, you buy that tape. You go home and you're jamming together, having fucking pizza fries and whatever else we have here in Philly,
That's cool. Carl from Canada, he said he worked at an import record store, 89 to 91. He got well paid in music. Hell yeah, he'd probably just, work and then buy all the stuff right back, which is cool.
That's nice, man. Yeah. And Mike, he had his radio show, his college radio show, so he had a plethora of demos too.
Yeah, so, exactly. Well, we had that too. I mentioned Wes all the time, the Sweet Nightmare show and things like that. But, it's you can't get that from looking online. It's like, hey, look, I found something.
Everybody's an expert in 5 minutes.
Well, I found a download link. I found a download link to this. It's not the same when you got it in your hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I'm all about. I'm all about. Don't get me wrong. Like
we learned about pizza. I'm sorry. We learned about pizza fries too.
Yes, you did. And I'm telling you all, folks, you would love it. Little tender loving care. French fries, steak cut fries, pizza sauce in the can. You can even in a can.
Yeah.
Mozzarella cheese. You bake it in the oven in the tin. Boom. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Pizza fries, pizza burger, pizza steak.
Yeah, that's good. Well, back then, did anyone know there'd be a show on YouTube talking about all these albums most don't care about? No, of course not.
No.
But here we are.
Yeah.
The ones that stuck around and were actually really, really genuinely into it, are the ones that are still talking about it and sharing those stories. And so yeah, it's cool. when we're both gone, this shit's still gonna be on YouTube. So if anybody's watching this in like, I don't know, the year 3000, hello.
Yeah, JG did say to me, the one time when you let him take over with me, he's like, just think, Chris, your ghost is happening right now. I said, yeah, you're right.
That's hilarious.
It's like, yeah, you're right, JD. And I said, I do. I said, I got my ghost from years ago, which is, I said, and when you have kids, because, you're a dad too, would be nice to know that there could be a piece of you there that they can reflect on you. For me, there's a nice setting. My daughters are at the stage where they know that I'm doing this right now. Even the kids on my school bus know. There's a couple that know that I do this with you.
Oh,
just
really?
Because they heard me talking on chat when I'm promoting the show.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, they always call me Mr. Chris. Mr. Chris, what are you talking about your show? And I'm like, yeah, I'm talking about my show. But they're all Christian Academy kids. And if their parents hear us, oh, my God.
So going back to your zine, that was another thing that blew my mind. I can't pinpoint a year when I first put my eyes on a zine, like an underground zine, but I just know it was like, it's like, wow, I was just so used to the glossy magazines, like the bigger magazines you would get, wherever.
Oh yeah,
and then these like cut and paste things that somebody did at their house. Yeah, it's like, it was just mind blowing to me. I was like, wow, It was
a lot of fun.
This is a lot of fucking work.
Yeah, I was the one doing the typing.
Yeah, typing. Who had a typewriter? You gotta have
my sister. It was my sister's. She had a sky blue typewriter because she was going to college to be a nurse. And I used to ask my sister Barbara. My sister Barbara is also the one that helped print out the Goreaphobia demo covers.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I had great big sisters, Francisco. You have older sisters too.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I'm the youngest out of 5, and I got like 9 cousins, and most of my family's all girls. So I'm used to being around ladies all the time, and I think that's really the number one. I have so many girlfriends that are just my buddies. They're my friends.
Yeah.
That, just through the years, I used to get, other guys, but how do you hang out with her? Because like I said, on the 66, some of the, like Janine and, Angie and all them,
yeah,
they were the rock and roll girls. And then, the older guys were like, how do you talk? We don't even talk to her. How do you talk to them? I was like, well, they like music. And them guys weren't into like rock or metal. They weren't, but they were. Those 4 girls that sat in the back, Yvonne, Eva, her name was Eva, and Janine and Angela, those 4. And I'm just like, well, I like music. I don't know. I talked to them about, they know I like this stuff. So they asked me and I showed them. And when you're 13 and they're fucking, 17 and they got boobs already and they're, they're looking good and they're talking to you, it makes you feel a little bit special in your pants,
Yeah. Hey, so I also want to send out those of you that super chatted today. You rule, kick ass, supporting Impede, Teddy, Tommy.
Thanks.
And I highlighted this. I don't know if Bloodstone's still here, but in the chat, Frazier typed something that was like, people are like, oh, Frazier's getting all philosophical and shit or something. And this comment just made me laugh. Contemplations from the crapper. That shit made me laugh, so I stored that. Travis P. Carl Necron rules. Speaking of Carl Necron, he's going to be doing a show tomorrow where he's going to be raffling T-shirts. And Carl's got some good fucking T-shirts. So, Nick, thank you. Noelia, Ruby,
and Pete, the Total
Maniac. Yes, so you guys all kick ass. Thank you.
Yes, once again, everybody that's been there from 80 to now, just really, it's weird because I think of you people now, even you, Francisco, like in a way, you guys kind of echo pieces and personalities of my friends from those years in some ways.
Yeah. I see that.
Which is comforting to me.
Yeah.
I know I'm sociable. I'm a chatter. I don't know when to stop talking. I know that. But it's just what I am. That's just who I am.
When you get a chance, just once the chat is available on the thing, watch. A lot of people said a lot of nice things that I think you wanna.
Oh, well, thank you, everybody. Really, thanks a ton. I know I got off the beat things sometimes here and there, so just thanks for understanding. You know, it's like I got to acknowledge Suzi Quatro. I love her. She's one of my. As a person, I love her. So
I saw that. And I'm like, I knew it. I knew it would be. Something would be in there, because we were like, we were kidding around. Somebody in the chat, it's like, because I was promoting the show on another show. And I was like, yeah, you know, Chris is doing 1989, and one of the, I think it was No Baloney. He's like, yeah, if you're wondering what Joan Jett was doing in 1989, just tune in to Chris. He'll let us fucking know what she was doing.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So when I saw that, I was like, I knew you would find a way to sneak that shit in, and Motörhead too. I knew they would sneak in somehow. But
I had to. I love that band I love them so much. I really do. I love them as people. I mean, I don't know them, but I mean, Suzi Quatro, like I said, I had a couple moments where she would chat back with me online, and that was awesome. But it's her book, reading her books, the thing that really made me like her more as a person, because it really wasn't synchronized with a lot of things that she says historically really happened. So you know what I mean? It's like you kind of can tell it's no bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all there. I'm fascinated by that, and just what she had to go through, man. Her own family completely shunned her, and it's tough, man. Like, that's got to be fucking hard. You know, you're living your dream, you get it, and your whole family's like, you know, basically like, fuck you, I don't want you to succeed. That's shit. You know, it's got to be a shit feeling. So, there gets to be a moral comfort with people that have hardship, when you love your hero's pain. It's like you get more passionate really about what their characteristics and how they become relatable.
Yep.
Synchronizes you a lot more, and locking you into your own character and what you're about gives you more confidence. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I'm rambling, but
I totally
there's a confidence in that.
Yeah. You learn more about them, and you're like, oh fuck, you know, you kind of like this, where people are learning about you, and
it's
you know,
nice.
whatever happened in your life, and you know, next time they hear or listen to Bloodstorm or Goreaphobia or Den of Sin or whatever, they'll be like, yeah, you know, fucking Chris and his crazy ass stories about growing up in, you know, Kensington and all that. So that's cool, man.
Yeah, that neighborhood it changed through the years and turned into a drug neighborhood. It took my friend Billy. I had no idea. I ran into this guy, Eddie Prescott, and I'm like, oh my God, Billy Gorham. He was there at the Ultimate Revenge show too, and I used to hang with his sister Stacy, his younger sister. I don't know if she'll ever see this. I told Eddie, I was like, Eddie, if you know where Stacy's at, tell her to reach out. Tell her if she, you know, it'd be cool to hear from her again, you know, because Billy was a good guy. He's a quiet dude, but the pills got him. Product of the neighborhood, the environment got him. Right. And it got my friend Pat Martin, too. It got him. But I knew about my friend Pat passing years ago. But then, you know, Vicky, she was Vicky really was, I was really attached to Vicky. She was like my big sister. Right. And her mother's the reason why I got into the occult.
Yeah.
The Hewitt family.
Yeah.
On G Street, it was Vicky. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you told that story.
Yeah, I'll never forget them.
Yeah, no, that rules. All right. So, hey, guys, usually we do like an after show thingy. I don't know, it's up to Chris if he wants to hang out for an extra hour. But it'll be on I'm gonna just start up a thing on the Twitch, and then we'll just discuss a little more there. I'm gonna cut it here on YouTube now. So if you guys, you see there on the bottom, twitch.com/JOABA-TX, go there if you want to, you know, continue hearing stories and all that. But we're going to cut it here because I don't like to add too much towards the end of this because it's a playlist episode. But,
right. And I already talked enough.
No, well, it's not. Den of Sin was never officially released, right?
No. Once in a while, somebody asked me about it. I'm like, shoot me a price, shoot me a deal. I mean, talk is great. I'm all about it, but shoot me a deal because Jimmy's got to take those files and he's got to reintroduce them back into his system and put them out. But you know, and actually he's been sick a little bit.
Oh no.
Well, his ears. He had a very bad problem, serious problem with his ears, and he couldn't hear well, and he couldn't play. He stopped playing drums, and we stopped making songs because he had to clear his ears out. He had a really serious problem, Jim.
Damn.
So he's doing better now. So
yep.
I'm worried about Jimmy. He's my skeleton.
Well, again, hey, everybody, thanks. Like I said at the beginning, I put them all together in a playlist on the JOABA channel YouTube thing where you can go from 80 to 89 all in one place if you want to go back and rewatch them. And probably you're wondering what are some of these things we're talking about. You go watch them. You'll find out a lot of cool shit, a lot of cool history. A lot about Chris and the 80s, the decade of the 80s. What are we gonna do next? I don't know. He and I will talk offline about this, and we'll still
we'll figure out.
We'll see what we want to do. We'll have to have that discussion and see what we're gonna do. But in the meantime, you guys watch all the 1980s. Go back if you missed any of them. They're all worth it. Trust me. Go back and watch them all. Share them around. I think the stories alone are worth sharing. And yeah, again, appreciate it. You guys kick ash.
Thank you so much, everyone. You mean a lot to me. Thanks.
So, all right. Well, that's it, everybody. If you want to follow over, go ahead and go over there. Chris, I'll send you a link to log back in here.
Excellent.
And we will be over there shortly. Thanks again. I just want to show the Slayer flyer just because it rules. Go watch that episode we did with Slayer. Me, Carl, who was on there?
Matt,
Matt Hefner.
Matt
Hefner came on the YouTubes. That's the first time ever, so go check that out. And God damn it, I feel like a dick now. Who was the other person that was? Oh, Derek. Derek from Ancient Death, Head Rot, and all that stuff. So go watch that shit. It kicked ass. So anyway, see you guys over there. We are out of here.
Thank you, Ed.
Poser alert.